find himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Nuoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Hay deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down in towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
On to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching. And the Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the OGRL Coffee Cup. It's season 2 and it's round 2. Just 2 weeks after the opening round of the season where we went racing at Belle Isle. It was Devin Roy who took the win on that day. We're a couple of weeks on from that a week off because of the Spa 24 hours. Well, we're back at the very same venue again on the 24-hour layout at the Spa Francorchamps for round 2. Still plenty more to come, of course. In the next 4 weeks, we will have consecutive racing coming up at Mugello, Zandvoort, Interlagos and Misano. So before our 2-week break at the end of the summer. But still plenty of racing to look forward to here early in the morning over in the Western Hemisphere, over in the North America, the USA and Canada, which most of these drivers are from. It's early afternoon over here in Europe, where we've got 4 entrants from not just the UK, where me and James are, but across Europe as well. So looking forward to another round of this series. It is myself, Ewan O'Leary, alongside James Parfitt again. Enjoyed round 1, James, a couple of weeks ago, but it was a very different race to what I imagine we're going to see here at Spa.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems such an age ago, doesn't it? But it was only literally 2 weeks. But a lot of these guys I know did the Spa 24. So they've all had practice on this circuit. So they all should be, up to date and current with it and see how they get on. But it's going to be very interesting nevertheless. It's Spa, isn't it? Let's be real about it. And Spa brings sort of the best of everything, and see how they go on and see whether or not they can remember what it was like in Spa 24. No rain predicted at the moment, so we'll see how we get on and whether or not we get rain a little bit later on. But I haven't seen any rain currently predicted on the racetrack.
No, I think we are going to get away with it. As I mentioned, to give you an idea of the championship standings, well, it's not very complicated, to be honest. I said David Monroe won the first race. He's in the first position in the championship, would you believe it, as a result of that as well. So, not too much to speak of there, really. It's going to get more interesting later on in the season. In terms of the classes, of course, we do have Pro, Pro-Am and Am to think about here, and they all provided very good racing at Belle Isle, but as we've said before, it is going to be such different racing again here at Spa. Not without incident, of course, but maybe a little bit less incident than what we saw at Belle Isle, where everyone was in the wall and well, not everyone, but there was quite a few.
There was quite a few.
Hitting the wall and so on. It's just, it's not criticism. It's just to be expected, really. Although, as I say, you can find the wall round here too. Just look a little bit gloomy, I've got to say, but I'm not entirely sure. The weather, from what I'm seeing at the moment, says cloudy. There's a look at the track conditions. Very cool temperatures on the circuit. And I was about to ask you, is it early in the day or late? Because it often looks pretty much the same. It's 6:45 in the morning. That's pretty helpful considering that it's a spring date virtual standard time. A middle of the day race could give you some really high temperatures that would make you think about saving your tyres and keeping on top of the temperature, but you won't necessarily need to do that at only 19 degrees. Very cool track temperature indeed, and ideal for some very good lap times. This is the golden hour in the 24-hour racing. This is the golden hour. This is when the best lap times get set. Now, in most of the splits, certainly over in Europe last weekend, the golden hour was taken over by rain, so we never really got to see the very best lap times that everybody could achieve, but we are going to see the very best here. The light has come back. They can all see comfortably where they're going, but the temperatures have not come up yet, and this is why this is the best time in the day to set lap times around any circuit, and it's going to be a very fast qualifying session as a result.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think we're going to see 217s, 218s, maybe 219s. We've got Riley racing. No Formula 1 spoilers, please. That's good. Please don't, because I haven't watched it. I have no idea what's going on. So, I'll watch that later. So please don't put anything about the Formula 1 in the YouTube chat. That would be absolutely amazing. But obviously, some of these guys have just started their flying laps, Alan Purser being one of them. Obviously, with a 2-minute lap time, it takes a while to get round on your out lap. But it should be fun. I think Kemmel Straight, as per normal, is going to provide some action, and I think we can look forward to seeing how they get on there. And it'll be exciting, especially with the Pro-Am splits and the AMs at the bottom. We've got some new drivers joined as well, so I think there's about 4 extras that have joined us. So let's see how they all get on. Let's go, George, for your big brother, Edward. So, that's obviously George Parfitt, my boy, who has joined the season. And Edward is his older brother.
And we will keeping an eye on
Parfitt's taking over.
Everyone. Yeah, you know, a whole field of them soon. If we're not careful.
Hey, I've got 3 more that could drive in it, mate. So you know,
goodness. Okay.
You know what I mean. We'll see how we get on. They'll all have sim rigs soon. No, my luck.
That'd be a good percentage of the field, about 10% of the field. That would be more. There we go. We'll see when we get there, if indeed we do. David Van Roy looks to be the first driver around. It looks like he's going to set the benchmark, just as he was setting the standard and the benchmark for everybody at Detroit. Won the race 2 weeks ago. Got his championship season off to the best possible start, and there he goes over the line in the Mustang. What's the time going to be? 2:17.9. Very good lap time, but again, shows you these conditions are so ideal for qualifying. These lap times are going to be extraordinary. And just in case you weren't with us last time, by the way, to give you a reminder of the format, they're all on their own. They can't see the other drivers out there on the circuit, even though we can flick through everybody and have a look. And they have only 3 attempts as well, so that's number 1 complete. Still another couple for the drivers crossing the line right now.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple that are going to have to be careful of off tracks over this next lap as well. JT Sawyer's got some, Philippe de la Cruz, he for Ollinger, Hoskins, Hadley, obviously Parfitt, Fazino, they've got some off tracks, so they're going to have to be careful. They need to get that banker lap in. I think that's where they used the first lap, should be their banker lap, and a couple of them have sort of gone out and gone full bore, and unfortunately have got it wrong.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in 3 laps, if you're in a 2-lap session, as most officials are in iRacing, and a lot of sessions in iRacing are actually, I don't generally approve of a banker lap because you've only got 2 laps and that only leaves you 1 chance at a real go. But with 3, it just gives you that little bit of extra room to put in a banker lap first and then push on a bit more in the 2nd and 3rd attempts. Bradley Tidwell's going pretty well at the moment. Fastest 3rd sector for him in the Lamborghini. You can see him coming round the bus stop chicane now and out onto the front straight. What is the time going to be here for the driver of the number 89? It is going to be the best time so far in Pro-Am. That's a 2:18.8. Only 9 tenths slower than David Van Roy. And by the way, oh dear, as the screen goes to a full look at where everybody is in the overall standings, James Hillerick is the current fastest AM, although it is notable, only 2 AMs have set a lap time so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that have got off tracks. Out the what we got, like about 46 cars I think we got on the grid, and only 20 times so far, and they've all done their first lap. So there's half the grid that haven't got times on the board yet, and that does include Michael Dion, Cole Modric, Michael Chaplin. They haven't got any either. The pros are De La Cruz, Jeremy Chaney, Keith Cloddin, and Bradley Lovins. None of them have got times yet. So there you go. It's going to be they're going to have to get some times on the board at the moment.
Bradley Lovins was very quick in the practice session. Expect to see him up towards the front again as we get through the end of this session. And Hillerick goes over the line there again. Don't think he improved quite on that lap time there. So we work up towards the line with the number 29. The time's going through the bottom of your screen so quickly. I'm not quite used to this. Goodness me. I'm already flying across the line.
Still not got a time.
Again and again. Brian Dukowski just went over there. Don't think he set a valid time. At the moment, we have got 29 valid times. That's only 2/3 of the field, and we're over halfway through this session now.
Yeah, there's still what we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 still with no times on the board. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how these guys are. JK Racing, good morning Dessa. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you are well. Please, no F1 spoilers. None of us have watched it. I don't know the results. Please do not, say that. I don't really know. I think they've only just started, but I still don't want any. Yeah. Right, I'm going to pin that, in fact, on the YouTube chat so people can see it and then not tell us.
Got it. It is, of course, at this very venue this weekend, so we'll enjoy that later on. Or not. I might just watch the highlights, to be honest.
Yeah, I do the Channel 4 highlights a little bit later. I think they're on at like
basically
7 o'clock.
The whole thing, just delayed.
Yeah, exactly. And then the best bit is I can fast forward. past all the gumph.
Okay.
So, you know, they do the chatting to drivers and all that, don't they? And I just fast forward past all that. I just get them to they're on the grid and that's it, away they go. So.
See, I don't have a TV to record it and fast forward through the adverts, so I've got to use the actual TV and watch the adverts, or use my laptop and watch the adverts, so I don't really have
You
a
haven't
choice
got
in
the
that.
Channel 4 app? And watch the Channel 4 highlight programme?
No.
Oh, you should get it.
So, anyway, wow, how sidetracked we've got in just 10 minutes.
Hey.
This is what happens sometimes. Let's have a little look at who is leading in the classes, because it is different. David Van Rooij has completed his session, and he hasn't gone any quicker than he did first lap round. We saw his first lap, and he's... well, that was it, basically. That was his ceiling. Couldn't go any quicker, and he's now returned to pit lane, having completed his 3 laps. Stuart Gibbons has returned to pit lane after getting an off-track very early into his 3rd, but he currently leads one of 2 non-American drivers in the Pro-Am order of the field. Bradley Tidwell is out there on the circuit at the moment, though, as Bradley Lovings goes into 4th place. That's only his first lap time, though. We'll be able to enjoy another couple of laps from him before the session is complete, although he'll only just squeeze them in the next 5 minutes. JT Sawyer is leading in Am, a class in which I've got to say there's been struggles with off-tracks, that's for sure. Mike Brady has off-tracked on all 3 of his laps, I'm afraid. He won't set a time. Neither will Robert Hadley in the Ferrari. He's continuing to lap around for a bit of practice, I think. Gary Spencer is in the final few moments of his lap at the moment, and he's not been able to set a time yet, even despite a couple of attempts.
Oh,
so,
that's going to be
as
an
you
off as
mentioned
well.
Earlier, plenty of off-tracks so far, and they're not stopping for the AMs especially.
No, definitely not. They're just, unfortunately, producing times. We've still got, I think there's 14, 2, 4, 6, 8... Well, we're down to 10. 10 have not got times on the board. ISI MTV, hello. Which driver is the favourite to win today? Oh, well, Van Rooij's coming off his win last time, but it's a couple of good fast Pro-Ams in the whole thing. But, yeah, I don't really know. I wouldn't really want to try and pick a winner, to be honest with you, Ewan, out of this one.
No, the one thing else I'll say as well about picking Van Rooij as the obvious choice, if you want to go for as Gary Spencer just finally get a time on the board, David Van Rooij was challenged, as you may remember, very competitively indeed by Ryan Merriam during that race, and actually overtook Merriam, if you remember. I think it was through the pit stop phase or around that. Anyway, he overtook him, overhauled him, and won the race, but the 2 were only separated by about a second through the entire thing. Now, only one of them has returned today for the 2nd round, and David Van Rooij is that one. So I think he is the favourite, not only having taken the 1st round, but actually, when you compare him against all the others who raced in round 1 as well, he finished quite significantly ahead of those guys who raced in round 1 and have returned to race 2, because his closest rival from a couple of weeks ago isn't here.
Yeah. Does that leave Van Rooij open to take the win by miles, though? The thing is, because there's so many cars, a lot could happen. Right, we know that. You know, when you're looking at how many cars we've got, that's obviously we go up to the top. That gives you the top 30. But then there's obviously more behind that. You know, we've got another 17 cars, I think, behind that of people out. So anything can happen, and back markers, I'm sure, as we said before, will come into play here. And I just think it's just too open. I think if this was a 20-car grid and you could sit back and go, yeah, that's Van Rooij, you know, Van Rooij's going to win. But there's 46 cars. I don't know.
No, it is true. It is true. And the other thing as well around here that's different to Belle Isle is the slipstream. You will have seen early on in the splits of the Spa 24 Hours that it was, well, I don't say easy, but it was easier to stay in the slipstream than it is at pretty much any other venue that we're going to go to this season. This really is the outlier. Mugello, very much twists and turns. Zandvoort as well. Mazzano, Interlagos, few more straights, but nothing like Spa. So this is the circuit where slipstream and straight line speed will be key, and if you are close enough to Van Rooij, you can hang on to his coattails, and once you're in the slipstream, you are in the hunt. And that's the job of the likes of Sean Riley, Joshua Herron and Bradley Lovings, who are on the front 2 rows as well, to try and stay with him. Bradley Lovings, by the way, is the best placed driver to have not actually completed his session yet. He's still on his 3rd lap time, although as you can see, he's not exactly going any quicker. He's not even improving on his own bests. so far in these sectors, and he's going to need something remarkable in the final sector if he wants to improve his position. But it's not about having exactly the same pace as Venroy like it would have been at Belle and like it will be at Mugello next week, for example. It's about having just enough pace or being not quite too slow to fall out of the slipstream. That's going to be the real name of the game. Slipstream is the key at Spa.
Yeah, and I think what they've got to look at as a goal, right, is basically completing the race. Complete the race. You know, unfortunately for Marcus Fazzino there, that's an off track. He's not going to get a lap done. That's his qualifying done. You know, they to get points, you got to finish. And if you don't finish, you don't score nothing. So don't do anything stupid. You know, you've still got a long old time. Let's make sure that they can just get to the end of the race. And that's got to be the main aim. Get to the end of the race, get points on the board, look at the next track going forward. We know how difficult Spa could be. Let's hope that some of these look back and think, yeah, that would just be silly if I start going for it this early on. So get points on the board.
That's the name of the game. It's 1 point per position around here, by the way. 62 for the winner, and then at -1 all the way down. So everybody gets a fairly sizable amounts of points. Even the final driver today is going to score upwards of 20, I think. So it's plenty worth continuing on and participating in these. And of course, in terms of the classes, it is not split the points. You score points as an overall basis. Anyway, I'll stop blathering on because I've got a grid to get through here, and it is going to be quite an ordeal.
There, sir, because you've got 5 minutes of warm-up.
Oh, it's the warm-up.
It's the warm-up, isn't it? Next.
I've got 5 minutes to prepare for the grid. And trust me, if you weren't with us 2 weeks ago, that's me. I'm going to need hospitalisation afterwards, probably, because it's a very big grid, and it is.
I want it all done in one breath. All right, one breath.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether it was so short last time because it was Belle and it's a short circuit, or whether we're doing a short warm-up lap again. I think we'll be doing a short formation lap as we did in the Spa 24 Hours last weekend, so gridding up just before Blanchimont, and that means that it's even shorter. But we'll get through it anyway. It's a we mustn't complain about having a big grid. It's an absolute delight to have so many drivers on the grid, especially for the vast majority, 95% of this field. It is really quite early in the morning over in America.
Yeah. Where are we at the moment? What's the time? 2:30. What are they, 6 hours? Got to be 8:30, 9 o'clock? 9:30?
It'd be 9:30 in New York and 6:30 in LA, and then adjust for wherever you are across that spectrum, east to west.
Yeah. So it's still very early. I'm surprised. Isn't it weird though, right? Because obviously for us in Europe and the UK and stuff, this is an ideal racing time, right? Sunday afternoon, just before you have your roast chicken, you know. And I'm surprised there's not more Englishmen have jumped in and gone, oh, do you know what? That's an ideal time for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that upon seeing George in here, who that we've already talked about. You know, it is a really ideal time to go racing in Europe as well. I know it's a predominantly American name to the league, after all, and it's not really the time for drinking coffee.
Oh, it is. I've just drunk one.
Okay. Okay, well, we're getting on the edge of it being maybe a bit too late, because otherwise you'll be wired later. But even so, it doesn't really matter about the name. It really is an ideal time to race. I suppose the only downside for those in Europe, if you are an F1 fan, maybe you'd end up missing the races. But you know, you can watch that. You can watch that later. You don't need to watch it live. Come and have a race. And it's a time of day when there's not a lot of racing going on for a European, especially not this type of racing. Sprint GT3 racing at this time. We don't know very many leagues that are doing it anymore. It used to be fairly popular, not anymore. So it is a great thing, and clearly very popular, as you can see with this grid. We've got everybody out on the circuit again together, and it's visible now just how busy the circuit is, even a circuit in 7 kilometres in length like this one.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling though, Tarina Chatham might disagree with you. Let's go, Quinton, your fiance's cheering you on, and then obviously JK Racing. I'm up at 7 a.m. for this race every week, and I'm in New York. Wow.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Lion.
Yeah. JK, why are you not... I can't remember who you are in the grid. I'm sure you're somebody. I just can't remember who you are. Let me know which one you are. Are you actually racing in this, JK? Because I'm sure you were in YouTube chat last time out as well, which means you're driving and typing at the same time.
I mean, it's been known. I've interviewed someone who's been driving and racing at the same time, having got themselves into the booth while driving.
How do you do that?
It's possible.
I could barely concentrate on doing one thing, driving, let alone
I don't know.
I did try and drive and commentate once. That was very, very interesting. I've got to be honest. But lucky enough, that was only on an oval, which shouldn't be too hard, right? Because as Europeans' perception of oval racing, you just turn left. But I had to brake and make sure I didn't overcook it. So, Justin Coke apparently is in the YouTube chat as well. It's just JK.
JK.
Yeah, I should have worked that one out, really.
Yeah, we should have. Sorry about that. But there we go. Thanks for telling us anyway. And really spelling it out for us, because sometimes we need it. So there you go. Just a few seconds left in warm-up, and then we will be going for it. It just still look pretty gloomy, doesn't it? Get over the fact that it looks very overcast. I'd say I don't think we're in danger of rain, but I'm sure some of these guys will have had enough of rain during last week.
Oh yeah, it was rain-soaked.
Well, I heard different reports actually from the split that I did, top split of course, commentating and not driving, just before I
show your skills.
Only rained for about 4 hours or so, which is still fair amount of the race, but not as much as some expected. I heard someone say it was raining for 17 hours of their split, so I think it varied massively. Anyway, let's have a look at the grid before this race as David Van Rooij takes another pole position ahead of Sean Riley. Joshua Heron and Brad Lovings will be on the second row, and Bill Backer, who'll be aiming for a better first lap this week with Alan Purser alongside. Then the first of the Pro-Am, Stuart Gibbons ahead of Bradley Tidwell with Eric Ganzel and Mark Bolton rounding out the top 10. Michael Dione and Kenny Bourgeois are in 11th and 12th. Then it's Mitchell Brown and Rick Modric. Brian Dukowski and Barry Acker are next ahead of Kerlik Puckett and George Parfitt, with Quinton Price and Jeremy Cheney rounding out the top 20. William Bailey and Tyson Green are next on an all Pro-Am row 11, with Buzzy Mongold ahead of the AM leader. JT Sawyer a long way ahead of any rivals. He's got Chase Algray next up in 25th ahead of Simon Belts. Cole Mudrick and Pernod Hanno next ahead of Michael Champlin and Kenneth Cloddin to round out the top 30. Brian Hoskins is next. Then it's the second of the AMs in the form of James Hillericht, with Gary Spencer 33rd. Dean Murray Carroll is 34th ahead of Philip de la Cruz. Scott Carlson next ahead of Mike Elliott, with Justin Cook, Anthony Hutchinson and Heath Ollinger the top 40. Robert Hadley and Marcus Fazzino on row 21 ahead of Jose Valentin, Ben Groves and Mike Brady rounding out the 45 car grid. And I've done it in a little bit of a quicker time than last week.
Good
the week
job.
Before, so pleased about that. The drivers are making their way to the line then, and going to be an interesting race, that is for sure. The big question, of course, can David Van Rooij run away with this? Is he going to get challenges over the course of the 55 minutes?
Well, I think he'll get challenges. It depends on who can jump him at the beginning. If somebody can get in front of him at the beginning, I think he might be, they'll give him a go. But if they don't, I think that Mustang's looking very, very strong.
Certainly is. Many different manufacturers at the front, by the way. 3 different ones inside the top 3. Earlier in practice, we had 6 in the top 6 of Pro-Am. Extraordinary variety we have in this series. It's the second round of the OGRL Coffee Cup for Season 2 at Spa-Francorchamps. They make their way onto the front straight, and they hold on the front straight on the way down towards La Source. Few jumpers, few waiters. Then, when we come out of the first turn, we will go racing down the hill, as we did last week at the 24-hour. As is tradition when we're using the long format of the pit lane, which is going to be a key factor over the course of the day. Few still trying to anticipate the start, but no incidents with it so far. An even start as well as David Van Rooij gets the field underway, and Sean Riley was right on it. Down the inside he goes into Eau Rouge, and he takes the lead away from the pole sitter. An extraordinary start from the BMW, as coming in behind now the 2 Porsches, Joshua Heron and Brad Bradley Lovings helping one another on the outside. It's a freight train coming here as Purser gets in with them as well. There's a huge crash in the background, I'm afraid. Oh dear, we've had drama off the start here onto the Kemmel Straight as it's Sean Riley who takes the lead. Drama behind in a chaotic start for those in the second half of the field.
Yeah, it looks like something's happened at the back of coming up through El Rouge and Radion. Heath Follinger was off the track. Tyshawn Green, Brian Dudkowski, Caleb Pocot's crashed as well. So a lot's gone on so far, and it's all getting a little bit scrappy at the moment. I can tell you what though, Sean Riley, boy oh boy, did he get hold of David Van Roy right at the beginning. He crossed over the line. He took him right to the edge of the line as well. Riley anticipated it and got the job done. So a great job from Sean Riley taking the lead. How long can he hold on to it for? That's going to be the question. You can see Gibbo down in basically P6. He's got Bradley Tidwell behind him with Eric Gainsell and Barry Acker behind that. Mark Bolton has got Kenny Bourgeois, who's got George Parfitt behind him. Then you got the AM leader JT Sawyer. He's got Buzzy Mongo, but he's got a bunch of positions before second place. And there's been another big old accident.
No. Big accident at the Piff Paff chicane, rejoining fairly well actually. As we have a look back here, Cleniff Cloddin of New Jersey in the Corvette seems to have gone off in avoidance here, is he? He has, yeah. Oh, it's not Bill Backer again, is it? He's already had a, by the way, saw at Malmedy on the opening lap, by the way. He already had incidents, so he qualified inside the top 10, well inside the top 10, but and trying to make some of those places back again, went down the inside, and the Corvette on the outside was very lucky not to get spun around itself as well. But I'm afraid another spin for Bill Backer, who has had a disastrous start for the second round in a row.
Yeah, bear with me as well on that one. It doesn't seem to want to go back, which is a little bit annoying. Lovely. All right, give us 2 seconds on that one. We'll try and get it back to live pictures. I'll have to do it this way, unfortunately, on that one. But yeah, a lot went on in that opening lap. There was a lot of people who struggled. There was a lot of people who had a bit of a problem. You see the gainers on the losers. Let's give you the overall here as well. And people are up positions and people are down positions.
And one man who's down at the moment is Joshua Heron, I'm afraid. He got to slow down at Eau Rouge and so had to slow down on the Kemmel Straight, and that's killed him, really. He's gotten overtaken by Lovings and Purser there on the opening lap. Looks like Bourgeois and Parfitt may have got into contact. They're both falling down the order at the same rate, I'm afraid. That was on the way in towards Les Combes, and I think they are spun across to the right-hand side of the circuit. Let's have a look what happens here.
Bourgeois is in front.
Bourgeois in the Ferrari, and Parfitt caught out slightly by the concertina effect. Very light bit of contact between the two of them, and they both go around. Oh my word.
Stop, hold.
Careful. This is a slalom course for the rest of them who are stuck on the road, and he's rejoined, and that BMW has been fed straight into the wall by Kenny Bourgeois there, who's not going to have made any friends, I'm afraid.
No, he's not going to have made any friends. I can tell you one thing though, Bourgeois and Parfitt were in the same team.
Hutchinson goes for a spin. It's those Porsches that does do that from time to time, I'm afraid. Through Pouon, which he very late on in Pouon as well. He shouldn't be crashing there really, but it was unfortunate, very unfortunate for Hutchinson. Meanwhile, by the way, Sean Riley still leads the way. David Van Roy is still second. Then it's Bradley Lovings. It is a top 3 who have made the slipstream train for the moment as we complete a lively opening couple of laps.
Yes, yeah, Gainsell's just had an incident as well. He's just got off the side of the circuit. We're going to keep replays to a minimum at the moment due to an issue of it trying to go back live. There, Gainsell there with Buzzy Mungo behind him. Where did Bourgeois Parfitt come out? Well, he's down all the way down in 34th. Bourgeois will come out in 27th. After their little contact together there. That was just the slightest little hits there, and Dione, of course, who got caught up on the rejoin. There was somebody who's just made a mistake in the background. I think that was Mike Elliott, has also just made a mistake as well, and he's now dropped down all the way to 38th. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one all pans out. 49 minutes still on the clock, and Riley's still leading. Of course, there is pit stops included in this, so this could be an interesting to see who comes out and where they come out and what the situation is.
Very interesting indeed. What a opening to the race, though. I know you've said... by the way, just want to... Before I say that, want to... a quick shout out to JT Sawyer. 10 places gained so far overall, and he's now 10 positions ahead of any of his AM rivals. Remarkable start. I think he is going to start losing places, as he just has lost one to William Bailey, and he's got them queuing up behind him. But what a fantastic drive from him so far to make his way through. Now, one of the reasons I think that is because I think he's avoided some of the opening lap crashing, whereas some of the others haven't. I think he said we were trying to keep a replays to a minimum, but if at all possible at some point, we would like to see what happened on the opening lap, because it did look like a mass pile-up basically in the second half of the field. And I can tell you, by the way, 4 drivers have already been down pit lane so far in this race, and thankfully they've all re-emerged again, but there was a lot of contact on that opening lap for sure.
Well, we'll start from here, because I think it kicks off with Heath Ollinger. Is the first one off the side of the circuit, but let's put it up in the air and we'll see. So Heath goes off right at the beginning, so that's probably not going to be very helpful. And then Tyshawn Green
He'll arrive.
Yeah, here.
So where does it all start from? Is Green going to arrive on the scene? That's where it started, right in front of Green. It was a 4 wide, or an attempt to make it 4 wide. An incredible avoidance, by the way, from most of the drivers behind there. I'm not sure who the BMW is there, but they just try and force it 4 wide.
Dubkowski, that was.
Yeah, and it sent the Porsche straight into the wall. That'll be big damage, I'm afraid, for them. Ollinger was one of those who went into the pit lane, by the way. He saved Dubkowski in the Porsche, who smacked the wall there. I think Mitchell Bowen was the one who tried to make it 4 wide. I mean, that was the root cause of the crash. You just can't make it 4 wide really anywhere on this circuit.
No.
It's especially not a good idea on the opening lap.
No, Sean Riley still leading the way there. David Van Roy and Bradley Lovins are tucked up. That's the 1, 2, 3. We've got a bit of a gap. Stu Gibbons is leading the Pro-Ams, and then Bradley Tidwell has got Barry Acker right behind them as well. Then Eric Gainzel with Buzzy Mongrel and Chaz Allgray. That's in the Pro-Ams as well. JT Sawyer still leading the Ams by quite a country mile over James Hillerick, who's got all of this group coming up behind him. And then there's more, obviously. Bill Backer is behind that as well. So Bill's had a bit of a rough opening lap, but listen, they've still got 47 minutes, they've still got pit stops. Let's see how it all goes. Let's see how it works. I think still some people could still gain quite a lot of positions here, as long as they're sensible and try and keep it out of trouble over the next 46 minutes.
Yep, easier said than done, of course, but certainly true. It's 3/4 of an hour, as you say, still to go, and 3 leaders still. But it is looking clearer and clearer to me that Sean Riley is the one under pressure, and David Van Roy is the one enforcing that pressure right now. Look at him in the Mustang and the way that he's so much closer to Riley than Lovings is to him. It's 3 different manufacturers fighting it out for the win at the moment. And I said this earlier on, it's about making the front group. It's about getting in the slipstream of the leader, whoever that may be, and staying with them. And for now, Lovings and Van Roy have done that with Riley. It's Van Roy who everyone's looking at, the round 1 winner, looking to take the lead here into the bus stop chicane. He's really close, and the BMW goes defensive on the inside. Van Roy goes to the outside instead of giving the inside for the final bit. Oh, my word, that was close. Riley shut the door, but there was only just about enough room to do so.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of room there as well. That could have been a lot worse for them 3, I can tell you that much. And then that would have left Alan Purser picking up the pieces, saying thank you very much for that. There was a back marker involved there as well. I believe that might have been Mark Bowen, who is unfortunately just been lapped, or Mitchell Bowen, I should say, in that 11 BMW. He's just been lapped as well. There's been Philip Dela Cruz. Looks like Buzzy Mongrel has also just had a little bit of an issue there with Simon Belts, Cloddin, Holmes, Hoskin and Bourgeois all behind them. So you can see there's a mass field there. 2 Porsches just going side by side, and Philip Dela Cruz does get that position. Normally see him in an SR10 if it's the same one.
Yep. So side by side and single file again for those in towards Eau Rouge. JT Sawyer still holding all of these guys back, by the way. They've kind of come connected to this group a little bit, but look at the gap that Sawyer's got over the rest of his rivals in AM. 13 positions ahead. The reason I'm exclaiming that so much is because in terms of championship points, it doesn't split up like that on the left-hand side of your screen. It splits up in terms of overall though it's very important to put other class cars between yourself and your class rivals, if you can at all. It's probably quite difficult in Pro, but if you can, it's very helpful indeed. At the moment, JT Sawyer would not only win the race, if things were to end right now after 10 minutes, he would also gain 13 points. And when it's only 1 point per position, gaining 13 in one go is quite amazing.
Yeah, I'm just going back through to check that he is Jim Sawyer in the Corvette. I was just like, have I put him in wrong here? But then it's one of them things, isn't it? Like we were talking about it in the broadcast I've just done. You know, there was an who literally finished 4th overall. And it was like, well, hold on a minute. And they were like, well, his lap times reflect him where he should be, but the thing is, he could have an absolutely horrendous round next time out. Don't get me wrong, you know, they are going to Belle Isle and they've got a grid of nearly 50 cars, so let's face it, that's going to go wrong. But he was all the way up in 4th overall, and I think for JT, he just might love Spa. That could be the be-all and end-of-all of it. He just might love Spa, but then by the time we get on to the next one, Magello, he might not do so well. So, you know, hold off on that promoting and demoting for a minute and let's see how he gets on.
Well, again, I thought some of that gain will have been made at the start of the race. And let's not forget how many overall places he's gained from qualifying. And, you know, he wasn't double figures in terms of gains at one point. Don't think he quite is anymore because he's getting overtaken by people in other classes. But even so, it's quite amazing as Ben Roy now is very much in the slipstream of Riley. Is he playing the fuel game or is he going to play a leading game here? Well, he's going to go down the inside. No, not quite. He was close to going down the inside. Had a look at Riley there, didn't go for it. Not sure whether, again, that's a case of I can't overtake or I don't want to. Just for the moment, as Gibbons is off the road, I'm afraid. The leader in Pro-Am, Stuart Gibbons, is off the road. The best placed non-American in the race is still going to retain that, most likely, but he's going to drop way, way down. Below the AM leader, JT Sawyer goes through just there in one of the other Corvettes. He's going to lose his title of best placed non-American.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Steady.
Painful.
There's more coming.
Close. Very close. He's dropped 22 places in that one. Well, don't know whether it was a mistake or whether it was enforced upon him, but
we will have
he's
a
dropped
look.
22 places in one lap.
We will have a look. As I say, we might have to bring up the UI to get it back to live, unfortunately. It seems to be a little bit... Oh, he's going to go round on his own.
Oh, dear. He's going to be livid with himself.
I expect I would be livid with myself as well, because that is just absolutely insane. I'm going to have to bring up this again to get it back live, unfortunately. But yeah, Stuart Gibbons down in 27th now. Ouch. Big ouch. But
big.
Yeah, but we haven't lost too many at the moment. We've got a couple in the pits currently. Bourgeois and Brady, I think they had a coming together as well. They're in the pits now. So there's still some people out there who have gained a lot of positions. JT Sawyer up 9, Cole Modric up 13, Jeremy Cheney up 12, and Dean Carroll is on 15 places gained, with Robert Hadley's on 12 places gained. So a lot still can take place over the next 40 minutes or so. And of course, we've got the all-in vital pit stops coming in.
Yeah, Carroll with the most gains so far, by the way, at 15. So that's 1 per minute so far for him as we approach a quarter of an hour done in this race. Van Roy again in the slipstream, crouching behind the rather large BMW, although he's in quite a large car himself. The new Ford Mustang, of course, taking its first win in the series this time around. He has a look to the inside, just as he did one lap ago, this time more decisively. No, there's contact! Contact between David Van Roy and Sean Riley. Oh dear, and there's Mercer flying through as well. Aaron will go through. David Van Roy will continue on in 4th place, and there gets Sean Riley again. He's now 9th. Is Van Roy giving up the places to give that place back, I wonder, as he gets overtaken by Tidwell? I don't think so, actually, on further viewing, but that was contact between the two. Maybe he is slow here in the second sector.
Yeah, well, we'll have to have a look at that. I've got a funny feeling here. It was this half defence from Riley. It wasn't quite a defence, but it wasn't quite leaving the door open. He needed to be more decisive. Do you see what I mean? Or do you think that's just me chatting absolute waffle? But he didn't quite defend, did he?
I don't think that was necessarily that was the reason why Ben Roy got down the inside, but that's okay. Being on the outside for the first part of Le Com's not the disaster. The disaster is turning in a bit too much on Ben Roy there, I think, in my opinion. He hasn't quite given a very nice spin around to get back going without interrupting anyone, by the way. But yeah, it's... Problem came when he turned in a little bit too much, I'm afraid, on Ben Roy there. And Ben Roy has been very generous, I think, to let him have the place back. He was slowing down enough to let Riley have that place back. I don't think Ben Roy did anything wrong there. He was down the inside, legitimately so as well. The only time you're illegitimately down the inside, in my opinion, is when you're driving down the grass to get down the inside. He certainly wasn't doing that, although he was next to it. It was Riley turning in, I think, a little bit too much, squeezing the Mustang a little bit too much, caused that incident for himself, effectively, and Ben Roy's been very generous to hand him the place back.
Yeah, I wouldn't have given it back to him. I think there was a little bit of moving, there was a little bit of a half effort at defending. It wasn't quite, I'm going to defend my position. It was still a little bit, oh, gee whiz. That was, yeah.
I mean, but you say that, and I agree looking at it from where we are, but it may have felt different to him when he's driving the car. You don't have the same angles, the access to the angles that we do when you are driving, of course, as George Parfitt makes his way down the inside, a bit more successfully this time, of Simon Belts, and he is continuing his road to recovery up to 23rd now.
Yeah, he's sitting 10th in class at the moment, obviously after his incident with Kenny Bourgeois. Of course, Bourgeois then went on to have another one and is all the way down in 41st at the moment. So they've had a, unfortunately for Bourgeois, he's gone again. But Riley and Van Roy, well, actually, Van Roy's got Barry Acker tucked up right behind him here as well. So there's been a lot going on at the front. This is probably the closest battle out of the top 8 at the moment as well.
Tidwell's off the lead.
Yeah. Tidwell's off the side of the circuit.
Oh, he spun at no name. He spun at no name.
Steady.
And he's got, is that suspension damage, or is he struggling to get back going again?
No,
it's horrific suspension damage. Bradley Tidwell has hit the wall hard, clearly, because that is horrific suspension damage on that Lamborghini. He was leading in the Pro-Am class. He did. Oh, look at him trying to save it the whole way around. Just couldn't do it. And the way the car rips round to slam the rear left tyre, it's broken the suspension horrifically, and it is not broken beyond repair, but he couldn't drive it back.
No, it's definitely broke there as well for Tidwell. So, yeah. JT Sawyer, big shout out to him, still sitting in 14th, up 10 places. So, great job there. Gibbo is trying to recover. He's trying to catch up with Michael Chaplin, Belts, Buzzy Mongrold, and Parfitt's in front, who is closing down on Kenneth Clodin. So, that's going to be an interesting development to see how much further up they can go between the two of them. But JT Sawyer has got Chase Allgray behind him. Again, JT's in one of them situations at the moment, isn't he? He doesn't really have to fight this position, but he's going to have to make a decision whether or not he's going to let Chase go, or whether or not he's going... Well, there you go. That answers that one. So there you go.
Well, I think Allgray maybe made that decision for him in some ways. He doesn't get a great run off the final corner, but it's good enough to hang on. Barry Acker's made a mistake, I think, at turn 1. And he's dropped down. Ah, there he is. How's he ended up there? He's on the outside on the way into La Source, and there's a Mustang up ahead with no rear wing at all. I don't know if those two incidents are related, but Barry Acker was driving slowly down the front straight, and he's come to a halt before La Source.
Yeah, where did this Mustang come into all of this?
Well, they were just up the... Yeah, that's a good point. They may have passed Acker while he was stationary, but is that it? No, that's a normal looking.
Yeah, that's. I'm not quite sure. Then he gets going again. I don't really understand what went on there. But also, I can't see this Mustang. I don't know what's gone on. Something's happened. He's either. Oh no! Carroll is around with Clodin. An all-pro battle. But they come. These are two of the pros furthest down the field, I'm afraid. Oh, steady. That Corvette's looking twitchy.
On the straight. Plodding down the inside here. And he doesn't get the room on the inside, somewhat similar to the Riley and Ben Roy incident in that the car on the inside turning in far too much.
Yeah, same as sort of Bourgeois and Parfitt's incident. It's kind of sort of a repetition, isn't it, of what we've seen throughout this race as well. So, yeah, a couple of people might have to look at it and just see if they need to leave a little bit more room. But, yeah, I think we should be on the verge of sort of pit stops within the next 10 minutes. I would have thought they would have started coming in. So this could be, yeah, very interesting with pit stops coming.
I think it's possible to come in now and make it to the end if you want to as well. So the pit window very much open as things stand. And there's the Mustang I was talking about. It's just ahead of Michael Dion here, but 4 or so places ahead of it. And it's
Bourgeois
stripped out to the very bare bones.
That's Kenny Bourgeois.
Though he's been off again because the incident we saw did not result in that level of damage.
No, but the question is, oh dear, hold on, I'll go hunting for a minute. I'm not quite sure where he did that. He left it. He went into the pits. He left the pits. I can't actually see Mr. O'Leary, I'm afraid.
All right.
I would love to be able to give you an update on how he got to there, but I really cannot tell you. Nothing is showing up that Bourgeois has had an incident. However, that car might say otherwise.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, it's a quite horrific-looking Mustang, I'm afraid.
I agree.
It's going to be put more laps down, I'm afraid. Bourgeois already off the lead lap as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think
at the very
he is.
tail end of the lead lap. No, he is a lap down, excuse me. So there you go. He's just going to be lapped further and further by more and more drivers.
Gibbo's
slow Corvette there. Gibbons again, Stuart Gibbons. I think he must have had to slow down at Eau Rouge, and he's just slowed down on the Camel Straight to give that up again. But
he nearly got it wrong.
He's been really knocked out of the rhythm, hasn't he, by that incident taking him out of the lead of Pro-Am.
I think the thing is, it was self-done, wasn't it? There was nobody else there. You know, Gibbo just unfortunately went round on his own, and it's now, you know, he's now got to try and fight his way back. He's got to get his head in the game, though. And he's got to get some recovery done to the thing, because he's quite a way back in the Pro-Ams at the moment. You know, Simon Belts is up the road, but he's like 2.8 seconds. So, yeah, Gibbo's just going to have to get his head down and try and go for it. And Riley and Van Roy are back together.
They're still together. I thought initially that Van Roy's damage on the... Oh, dear, is that Barriaca still? And get back to the pit lane. I think it's someone else, but someone going very slow there on the way towards Plotenshaw. Yeah, I thought Ben Roy had a bit of damage, actually, that was really holding him back, because he did lose a bit of time to Riley initially after their incident. But, and you can just see it on the front right of the Mustang, there is definitely damage there. And Riley's BMW got hook round at the front of the Mustang. There must have been some damage done to that rather large front end.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Mustang.
He has definitely got a very large front end on it.
Yeah, that's certainly is the case. Yeah, yes, there it is. You just the fact that you can't see the front end is the problem there.
All right, let's there you go. Not an ideal picture.
It doesn't seem that it's holding back too much. And Riley now is going for a move on Chenny here, who may be slowing down, or is he going to let Ben Roy through as well? He's not going to let him through, but he might be overtaken. Roy doesn't want to go down the inside, maybe a little bit hesitant after his incident last time he tried to do that quite a few laps ago.
Yeah, he's going to need to be a little bit more careful. Purser is here. He's got Herring tucked in right behind him at the moment as they're going through No Name, and the left-hander wants to be a bit careful and does manage to make it through there. Philippe de la Cruz has just gone up the inside of Penel Hanalet. They are being caught at a rapid rate of knots by Mr. Parfitt there. And then Chaplin and Buzzy Mongrove and Bill Backer is trying to recover as well. So Bill, who had a horrendous season last season, we even had a hashtag made for him in YouTube chat, was Pray for Bill. Purser's just lost that place to Joshua Herring, and Jeremy Cheney, he's just lost a place to Van Roy.
It's to be expected, that one, for Herring, because he had that slowdown earlier on in the race that's put him, I think, a few positions back from where he should have been, but now he's back to second again and ahead of maybe a couple of drivers he didn't think he'd be ahead of here today, Sean Riley and David Van Roy. There goes George Parfitt through again into 17th now, covering quite nicely after that spin at Lecombe, is now in the positive again in terms of positions gained, and is just on the back of Renault Hano. Then it will be JT Sawyer. In terms of Pro-Am positions, they're going to be fewer and further between, though. The further you go up, there's quite a few cars between most of the places, actually, in Pro-Am.
Yeah, he's going to have a little battle on his hands. You know, he's only, bless him, he's only 13. Let's see how he can try and recover and see if he can keep his cool, because, you know, generally at 13, you're quite highly strung at the best of times, aren't you? Let's be real. So hopefully he'll get his head down and just try and get back up. He has got pace. He can do round about the 2:19s, so we'll see how he gets on. Looks like Rick Modric is gone into the pit lane there. The start of the pit stop cycles is starting to happen, so this should be seeing how they get on. Joshua Heron not quite got rid of Alan Purser as of yet. Purser's still staying in there.
Yep, I think that will be the theme until the end of the stint, to be honest, and the pit stops that are surely on their way. Up into Lecombe they go. The battle behind, by the way, is for the Pro-Am leader, and he's got a headache here, Mark Bolton, I would have thought, because the chasing pack will be very threatening indeed, and spoken about before, may want to think about just letting this one go. He's got over 10 seconds, don't forget, of a Pro-Am lead right now. He'd very much like to keep that, and the best way to probably do that is by handing over this 4th position.
I agree. Sean Riley, Van Roy and Cheney, yeah, not the kind of three people I'd want behind me either, to be blatantly honest. So Bolton's got to make a choice. Defend or do that. And honestly, I would have done that as well.
Things wide for Riley, who wasn't decisively through initially, but now is, and Ben Roy follows through as well. That's probably the best way to do it for Bolton. It will probably have a better time with Cheney behind. I don't think Cheney is quite as quick, but might still end up letting the Corvette go anyway. And if he goes wide again like that, as he did through the Piff Pass chicane, then he certainly will be letting him through. We are 15 seconds away from half distance, by the way, in this race. It's round 2 of the OGRL Coffee Cup here from Spa, and it is Bradley Lovings leading the way. He has got 3 seconds ahead of Joshua Heron, then Alan Purser, who's clinging on to him for 3rd place. Sean Riley and David Van Roy at 4th and 5th after their incident into Lecombe as they were battling for the lead. There's Chase Algray, who was challenging for the top position in Pro-Am. He's dropping down the field rapidly too.
Yeah, he's just had a problem as well. That's released Hanalei and Parfitt. They're literally pretty much nose to tail as they're on their run down Blanchimon. As he's got up the inside. Oh, blimey, he went up the inside quite forcefully there.
Be done, as you've got to make places up. As we see pit stops more frequently now. Price and Bailey both into the pit lane, and I would argue if you're stuck in traffic, then it's a good time to come in. And Pernod Hano and De La Cruz also give that a go. So, into the pit lane for quite a few. That's going to give us quite a distorted order for quite some time, but we'll have a rundown after the pit stop cycle is complete. Wonder about the chances maybe of Ben Roy pitting in a little bit earlier than Riley here. I'm, to be honest with you, surprised he hasn't pitted yet, because he spent all of this race stuck behind the BMW that he will surely believe he's faster than, and surely he proved that in qualifying and the early point of the race as well. And yet, here he is, stuck behind the BMW, not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I am quite shocked that he hasn't gone out and done that either. If we can have a look at the track map, there's a little blue P going up through El Rouge and Radion, and that's roughly where he would come out if he went in now. And I say roughly because it's give or take about 100 metres of where that would be actually as it counts. So he would come out literally behind, what was that, down in 40th? Mike Brady, he's a lap down. But yeah, he's got to start thinking of where he's going to come out here, because if he leaves that, he might be all right if he starts going in the next couple of laps. He's got quite a big gap, but if all of them people come out of the pits and he's still sat on the track, it could find himself mixing it up here.
Yep. Certainly. Out of the Kerpel Frere they go now. Towards Blanchimont. And surely Van Roy has got to pit soon as well for the chance to fix that bit of damage as well, which might be holding him back a little bit, as Mark Bolton just gives over 6th place too. He's still got 11.3 seconds though. Be very pleased with that in the opening stint of this race. Mark Bolton
it doesn't.
had it.
Oh,
No, wow.
Where is that going to put him now?
I don't think he'll lose places as a result of this, but his chances of gaining a place on Riley, I think, diminish the longer he stays out here. And Cheney comes in as well. I say, I don't think he will lose 5th place by staying out for longer like this, but certainly putting a lot of faith into his fuel saving and jumping Riley in the pits directly as a result of the stop and not as a result of some outlaps. I understand he might end up in traffic, but I think he's been struggling to get past Riley so far. See why not, really.
Yeah, there's quite a few people in the pits. Cheney, Bolton, Gainsell, Modric, Parfitt, Chaplin, all into the pits now. So those guys will go straight to the end. But Riley and Van Roy, it's going to be a tough one, I think, to see where these guys come out here.
And he is. And because the pit lane is so long here at Spa as well, let's not forget that it is less likely, in my opinion, that you come out with somebody else. I mean, to be fair, looking at the track map there, there's not exactly many pockets of clean air to get yourself into. However, I think, as I say, it'd be worth having a go with that if I was Femroy. They've been going for over half an hour now, and with the fuel limits that they have in this series, it means that you're probably not too far away from needing a pit stop now. Though the pit window, as I mentioned earlier, is quite wide. You can go quite deep into the race, and you really don't need very much fuel when you come in pit lane. The main time loss is actually driving down the pit lane here, which of course combines the Grand Prix and Endurance pits.
No, it's so long. They were obviously round together, weren't they? You know, they've got to go round one corner, down the other one, down the hill. It's such a long pit lane, so they've got to take it into consideration. Me personally, I probably would have looked at just running the car out and seeing how far I could have gotten with the car just obviously empty. But for Riley and Van Roy here, it's got to be soon. Lovins is in, Heron's in, Purse is in, Riley's in, Van Roy not.
Well, that's okay. I wouldn't expect Van Roy to follow Riley in. I think he's actually got a bit of better fuel mileage actually compared to some of the others, considering he's the only one still out there so far. Nobody else has been able to continue on as far as I can see for the moment. So this is one of those situations for Van Roy where he would have thought into that final chicane, I'm going to do whatever Riley doesn't do. And if Riley comes into the pit lane, I stay out. That's exactly what happened there. I think that's the best call from this point onwards for Van Roy, but as I say, I'm surprised that he wasn't in a few laps ago. Yeah,
Bill Backer stayed out, Van Roy stayed out. So Cheney will be the first car to have pitted in the top 10, if you get what I mean. The first car out on track that has pitted, and he's sitting in 10th place. So we'll see whether or not he can jump belts. Everyone's lap times round about 129 to 133.34 here. So they're going to be in the pits for quite a substantial time. And I think a lot of that is literally probably running down the pit lane. And the pit lane times, well, there you go, 129, 129, 129. So, yeah. The pit lane time is quite long here.
It is, yeah. It's well over a minute time loss. And you actually put it into perspective. Riley on the pit exit then. Makes his way back out. Bradley Lovings has already done so. Joshua Herring has already done so. Alan Purser pitted for a good deal shorter than some of the others. He's back out again. There goes Riley. How much further ahead is he of Jeremy Cheney? Quite far ahead. So you'd imagine Van Roy will do the same, but it's got to be a very good in-lap from Van Roy. He's got to utilise the lighter fuel, because don't forget, as the BMW makes its way back out there again, it will be on a third of a full tank. Now I know that they don't even get to use a full tank in this series, but if they did, just imagine the entirety of its tank, and just a third is what they need for the remainder of this race, whereas Van Roy will be running on empty almost. As more drivers make their way out onto the Kemmel Straight.
What was going
just
on
about
there?
in front of Eric Genzel there.
Yeah, that was Bainley.
The second.
Modric, yeah. Gainsell. And that's Hanalay there. Is he a lap down then? Yeah, nearly is.
Yeah. Meanwhile, David Van Roy into the pit lane.
So we need...
I don't think Hannah was a lap down, is he? Wouldn't have thought so. Oh, maybe he is,
nearly, yeah, because Hanalei at the moment
no, he is, yeah. You're right, yeah. He lost a minute he spent a minute in the box as opposed to 20 seconds, that's why. So I'm not sure what that was all about.
20 seconds in the box, 40 second speeding penalty.
He's made 2 stops. He's been back in again, that's why. So yeah, it's a very long couple of stops, I'm afraid, for him as David Van Rooij now comes down pit lane. He'll use his fast repair here. He will cover that wheel up again as it's meant to be covered. And he will see now whether that inlet was good enough to overtake Riley. It won't be good enough to take the lead off Lovings, that's for sure. But we'll see whether it is good enough to take 6th place away. Riley stuck behind a Corvette there, I think.
No, Riley's there. That's Purser and Herring.
Yeah, you're right.
Was stuck behind the Corvette. Van Rooij's still stationary. Lovins is coming down the hill. Van Rooij just moving.
Wow, he's already going.
Just moving.
Unbelievable. Van Rooij, 16 seconds in the box, 4 seconds quicker than the most of them. So David Van Rooij has taken on a very short stop indeed, and he'll come out in 2nd position. As we talked about at Belal, there's a game to be played here, whether taking tyres or not, and Van Rooij may well have taken on less tyres than some of the others to jump ahead of drivers he previously couldn't overtake. There goes Herring right to the back of him. Can Van Rooij hang on here? Will his tyres be in good enough condition for this to be of any benefit to him at all?
Well, we're going to find out. It's that debate, isn't it? Normally after 45 minutes you would take tyres on the car. A couple of people, well, judging by pit stops, 129 give or take. What was Van Rooij's was 123. So that's possibly that he didn't. Josh Herron's 127, 4 seconds. Possibly he did. So, Van Rooij might struggle towards the end here.
Oh dear, what's going on ahead here? It's a big bit of smoke. It's all okay. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed. The pit stop times haven't fluctuated very much, I've got to say. Drivers who've done a shorter stop include David Van Rooij, Alan Purser, Michael Dion, Brian Dukowski, but even those, you know, very much, very minorly shorter. They haven't saved very much by hitting short a little bit. It is the done thing, really, to take tyres here, because, as we know, you can take tyres and fuel at the same time in iRacing in GT3. So that means that you've got a situation like we have now where most people are able to take their tyres. I
would have taken tyres.
I mean, it certainly makes sense to take at least 2 or 3, as many as you can during the fuel. I think some drivers, though, especially in Pro-Am, actually, most of the drivers in Pro-Am have actually taken all 4.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not surprised at that. I think that if you're going to have a go, you might as well just take all 4 and then go absolutely hell to leather for the last 25-30 minutes. So I probably would have done the same. However, it does look like, oh no, Sean Riley is still running. I had a map that he went off the side of the circuit, but he is still going. Gibbo's closing down on belts there. So these guys are continuing the fight as well. So yeah, a couple of battles coming together. I think this could be quite an interesting end. And even down here, Scott Carlson and James Hillerick. Hillerick has just lost that place to Carlson. That's a battle for 6th in AMS. JT Sawyer, Gary Spencer and Jose Valentin are the 1, 2, 3 in AMS at the moment. So yeah, there could be a couple of nice little feisty battles towards the end of this one within the next 15 minutes.
Let's see. You hope so. Let's look at this now. Michael Dion looking for a way through on Mudrick. On the way in towards Lecomte. Excuse me, it's not Mudrick, it's another one of the BMWs. Round the outside he goes, though. Very impressive.
I think that was Quinton Price.
Not quite done yet. Yeah, not quite done. Now he'll get it done. Finally on Quinton Price. 2nd in Pro-Am, by the way. Quite a long way off Mike Bolton, but what he's more got to worry about is William Bailey right behind. I think there would have been an argument there for Price to make, to say, I'll try and defend from Dion here to try and keep that buffer between myself and Bailey. He clearly tried to keep it because he went defensive on the way towards Lecomte. He couldn't do it, and now it's a direct battle for 2nd place, including Eric Gansel as well.
Gainzel's in there. Modric is he's obviously different class, but he's only 1.6 back. Parfitt's only 3.5 back, and this is obviously we're getting into the top 4. So if these guys carry on fighting, the likes of Parfitt might have a chance to get up to the back end of them and join in that battle and put himself in the podium battle for the Pro-Ams, because once he gets up to 4th, they're all very much close together.
Yep, really are. But it's a big catch to make and not much time to actually make the passes as well if he gets there. So quarter of an hour remaining in the race. Everybody will be looking round to where they are now, who they're around and who they can get ahead of late on here. David Van Rooij has gotten rid of Herring, by the way, for second place. So not only is he taking a shorter stop, he's also quicker. Now only 2 seconds off the lead. Meanwhile, Quinter Price gets it very wrong into the bus stop chicane. And here goes William Bailey on the outside in the Mustang on the way down the front straight. This is going to be interesting as he tries to crowd in towards the inside of the circuit. That's way too late on the brakes again from Price. He's gone too deep on the entry to La Source, and he loses second place.
Yeah. And now he's got William Bailey in front. Quinton Price and Gainzel is not too far back there. Modric is there. Parfitt's only 3.5 seconds back. That's Pano Hanalet in front of him at the moment. Obviously, they can use as a draft to go round El Rouge and Camel. But this is the battle that's one of the closest battles on track in the top 20 at the moment of all of these guys together. So great low action there, and then below that is Hoskins and JT Sawyer. So we'll have to keep an eye and see what goes on.
Look at the gap that Sawyer's got now compared to what he had earlier. 13 I think was his biggest, 13-14. It's down to just 5 now in terms of positions between himself and Gary Spencer, who's done a good job to drive to second, although he is quite a few seconds off JT Sawyer, who looks like he's been very above mediocre motorsports today, I've got to say.
Yeah,
it's like
I agree.
doing himself a disservice in that team name.
No, I agree, but then again, he just might love... Oh, however, he did just get that all wrong. Hoskins is going to try and go out the inside of Ravage. Job done for him. JT can afford to drop probably another 3 positions. Obviously, he doesn't really want to, but he can if need be. Van Rooij, 1 below a second now, catching up to Lovins in front.
Certainly is. This is a surprise, actually. I know Van Rooij is very quick, but surely if he's taken a shorter pit stop, he must have done or not done something in that pit stop that the others have done, thus making him slower on the circuit. But clearly that logic is, well, you can forget about it really, because it's not true, evidently. David Van Rooij is still very, very quick indeed, and he's got time to win the to go 2 in a row effectively after winning at Belal. Looking to go back-to-back here at Spa as well.
Yeah, be interested to see if he can, but Lovins is not going to be an easy thing though. And is Van Rooij being so... Oh, I don't know if he's got a safe... Could be an interesting one on the fuel strategy.
Clearly saved fuel in that first stint because he didn't overtake anybody. Even when he was battling for the lead, he gave it a go eventually, but then when he dropped back again, he didn't continue the attacks on Riley. He just stayed behind. That surely was fuel. And maybe some of those 20 seconds, or 4 seconds that he's gained have been taken from fuel. I wouldn't imagine his pit stop was 1/5 shorter and he's put 1/5 less in the tank. That would be quite extraordinary, I think. So he's clearly done something else, I would argue, but we'll see. It's not holding him back, evidently. And Lovings has got a really big job to try and hang on to this race lead here. He finished 6th at Belal, did Lovings. He's going to go 5 better here at Spa. With 10 minutes remaining, he may well have 4 or 5 more laps to hang on to this lead.
Yeah. It's really hard, right? Because at Spa, there isn't a set line to park it. You know what I mean? If we were at Alton or Brands, you know, where there is a line, Belle Isle, you can park it in the middle, but Spa's just so wide, there's nowhere else he can do. He can try and use that back marker, but he's got to try and hold on to David Van Rooij, who just is just too quick. And look, it's just good night, Vienna. Bye, David Van Rooij.
Does not lack the horsepowers, that Ford Mustang, and the Porsche sometimes does. David Van Rooij makes his way through. into the lead of the race. A remarkable recovery from the round 1 winner, looking to go back-to-back here at Spa. Dropped to 6th place after an incident with Sean Riley while battling for the race lead. In fact, he was dropped even lower than that. It was a long recovery. Most of it came in the pit stop phase, where he decided to take a little bit less time in the lane compared to the others. That vaulted him into second. That made it a 2-driver battle between himself and Bradley Lovings, and one that he's coming out on top of at the moment. There's Quinton Price. He's lost another place since we were last looking at him. He's now off the podium in Pro-Am.
Yeah, Gainzel went past him, so Quinton's going to have to be careful, because Cole Modric, the pro's coming up behind him. Parfitt's only 1.7 seconds back from him. Keith Cloddin is down here. These are Dukowski. I think this was part of the recovery from the very first lap incident for both of these, and Cloddin and another one further down from there. So yeah, unfortunately these guys have not had the greatest of Spa race that they could probably want, but they're giving it a good old go. We've still got JT Sawyer leading the AMS. He has got Michael Chaplin behind him in that Porsche, so Chaplin there is got the leader of the AMS behind him. He's still got quite a bit of a gap. Hoskins, however, has gone into the pit lane again, so we'll just have to keep an eye and see what goes on here.
It's a bit odd. It's one stop only required in these races.
I think there might be damage though by the looks of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, damage may well enforce it, and we saw plenty of people have damage enforce that of them at Belle 2 weeks ago. Quite an extraordinary drive from David Van Rooij, who is leading this race ahead of Bradley Lovings, and Joshua Herring is catching them both. Well, not both, but he's certainly catching Lovings for second place, and that might well be the fight we have to look at in the latter moments of Pro. I think we'll have 4 laps to go when we get to the line here. Plenty of time for Joshua Herring to work his way through.
Yeah, he's going to keep trying to get a hold of them. Bailey and Gainzel are not letting each other go here. This is a battle for second in the Pro-Ams. They've slowly dropped Quinton Price behind him. He's moving into the hands of Cole Modric and Parfitt. Parfitt has closed up on the pair of them, so that could be an interesting to see how much further. Oh, that's not going to help from Eric Gainzel.
No. It's the effect of iRacing as well, throwing all sorts of dirt into the air as a result. But hopefully his internet holds out for the final 7 minutes. And into the final chicane they go. William Bailey not defending, didn't need to in the end. Gunsel didn't try and go down the inside.
Oh, Lovins is under
Price is
attack
still
here.
very much there. Yeah, here we go. Joshua Herring is going to look to go through here. He'll be frustrated he didn't quite catch the back of Van Rooij so that he could really stay with the Ford Mustang, I think, because he's had good speed here, Herring, although he's going to have to fight for this. Lovings round the outside through the first bottleneck, hangs on, but not for too long. Here goes Herring down the inside at Malmedy. Lots of room given by Lovings as the 2 Porsches go into battle into the middle sector. It's Herring on the inside. Lovings having to sweep right round the outside. He's going to run out of space there. The inside line far superior, far shorter. And Joshua Herring makes his way through into second place. It's now the impossible task of catching David Van Rooij by pretty much 1 second per lap if he wants to win this race.
Yeah, is he going to be able to, do you think?
No.
No?
No, I don't think so, no.
Do you think Van Rooij's just too quick?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, last lap is not particularly a representative one, I suppose, because Herring was behind Lovings for some of it, but still he was only half a tenth quicker. It's not that I don't think Herring can catch some of that gap, but when you boil it down to pretty much 1 second per lap, which is what it would need to be for him to have a chance on that last lap, it's a very, very difficult ask.
We'll keep an eye out for the next 5.5 minutes to see how these guys get on. The 3 Pro-Ams are all together. William Bailey in second, Gainzel and Quinton Price are all together. So let's see how this... Oh, that's a rotten line for William Bailey. He's going to be under pressure here going into Curve Paul Ferrer. So, yeah, he's going to have to be careful.
Didn't get that quite right at Stavolo. And then the Curve Paul Ferrer. He's a good run out of here. Price trying to maximise his run. Very nearly ending up in the gravel that slightly enforces track limits, although not very well. Out into what they go. The Audi was pretty reluctant to make a move down here. Last lap. Will Guernsey be quite so reluctant with 2 minutes less on the clock now? He moved to the outside at least, and I think the only difference really is Bailey went actually on the defensive instead of...
oh, he spun it round!
Oh, and mistake, and afraid Winter Price has got into the back of Eric Guernsey there. Spin the Audi around, and that is especially disappointing for Guernsey, who didn't have any control over that.
No, that was literally, this is on the front end of Price. You can see, bang! But then again, there was a break. There was an odd break in the middle of that corner as well. Watch the Audi's brake. There. Oh, I don't know.
Well, I think Price is going to bear the brunt of that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think he might as well, but unfortunately, not ideal. But that, of course, is now put Quinton Price in third place in Pro-Ams with Modric in the pros. And of course, Parfitt's not too far off it as well. So he's got another couple of laps to try and get hold of Quinton Price in front. So that could be an interesting development, as is Lovings with Heron. And Purser's not too far back either. So there's still, I told you there was going to be some interesting battles towards the end. We now know there is.
Purser there having to negotiate some lap traffic that's not been very compliant, although it had 4 cars to let through, so it can get quite flustering. Purser's lost a lot as a result. Riley was there anyway, but now has got an even better chance to try and go through on the way towards Bodgewell. The inside's been left open by Purser there initially, and Riley didn't decide to poke his nose down the inside, which is maybe a good idea. Through the corner itself they go, now into the final chicane, and Riley is let through by Purser.
Yep, that was a door wide open from Alan Purser.
Yep.
But is that playing the smart game? He knows he's got Purser, knows he's got 13 seconds back to Cheney, he knows he's not as quick as Riley. Why hold him up?
Well, I think with 2.5 minutes to go, Purser's well within his rights to defend from anybody.
Yeah.
And
well, I would have done.
I would have defended there, given the fact that we would only have 2 laps to hang on. Don't see why he wouldn't try and hang on to that position for all he's worth, but he's clearly pleased to just finish 5th, and that's what's going to happen by the looks of it.
This is the Pro-Am podium. This is second, Bailey, Price, Modric separating them, and Parfitt's there as well. There is literally about 2 seconds between all 4 of these, and obviously Cole Modric is the one in the middle. So where are we at? Bailey's on a 38, Parfitt's on a 40, so less than 1.7 seconds between all of these guys, and this is the battle for the second place in the Pro-Ams as well. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, and then keep an eye on what's going on up front as best as we possibly can. Oh, they spread out now. Heron's 2.7 seconds back, so this is the closest battle on track.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the most exciting towards the end as well here, with no Eric Guernsey, unfortunately, but he's been pretty much replaced by George Parfitt here as far as the 3-driver battle goes. These guys are on their penultimate lap, by the way. Devin Van Roy is just coming into Stavelot at the moment in the final sector. That means we are moments away from seeing the white flag in the final lap, but these guys are quite a long way from seeing it. So effectively, if you want to think about this lap as a couple of overtaking opportunities into the final bus stop chicane and into the Le Com chicane, these drivers have got 3 more chances in Pro-Am to get on the podium or retain their podium. Yeah,
the question will be is how is Modric quicker than Parfitt? Otherwise, Parfitt's got to make a dive to get past Modric here, because last time out, 2:19.4 for Parfitt, 2:19.7 for Modric. So Parfitt needs to get on with it. You need to get past him to basically catch up to the 2 in front, because there is 3rd and 2nd.
He's not going to be given it because he's in the lower class. So if the roles were reversed here and Parfitt was a pro and Modric was a Pro-Am, there would be a case to say, you know, I'm a pro, please get out my way. But it's the opposite way round here. He is going to have to legitimately fight his way through, as William Bailey is on some lap traffic here. That's awkward. One of of Corvettes into Blanchimont. That's
come
going to
back
allow
on.
Quinton Price to really catch up.
Oh!
They don't know where to go. Oh, they're braking all over the place. They're checking up, and the Corvette eventually does get out of the way.
He's gone wide.
Bailey gets it really wrong on the brakes here, and there goes Parfitt down the inside of Modric, exactly as he needed to. The two touch on the exit of the corner, but this is what was needed from Parfitt, and Price knows it too. He goes defensive immediately. Or does he go on the
Modric
attack?
said it.
It's the latter. He's down the inside of William Bailey into La Source.
Oh my dearie me. Modric just sent it back. They're going to be looking at going too wide up through El Rouge and Radion. They don't want to be doing this. They don't want to be doing this. One of them's got to back out. Modric does. Now it's a run up camel straight from all three. This is absolutely going mental. With the Pro-Ams in second, third. He's being... Oh my dearie me.
Oh, no, they're in the wall. They're in the wall. Contact between George Parfitt and William Bailey, who spins around and recovers quite nicely to be pointing the right direction. Again, the Ferrari is ruined on the front end too. It is still third, and it's going to be a... Oh, he's got no front end. George Parfitt's in the wall, and that's going to be it. It's heartbreak on the final lap for him. He's got no front end to turn anymore, I'm afraid. This is what happened. He was on the outside.
Oh.
And I think it's going to be one of those that where they point the finger at one another, but we'll see how the stewards view it. That's a difficult one to call. And by the way, as we're talking about this, the leaders are coming into the final couple of corners. It is the final lap, of course, and David Van Rooij is about to take another famous win. It was round one at Detroit 2 weeks ago, where he took his first win of the season, holding off Ryan Merriam. Well, it was different circumstances this time, but he's still come from adversity to win here at Spa as well, ahead of Joshua Herrin, and great drive from Sean Riley to get onto the podium as well at the expense of Bradley Lovings. In Pro-Am, where we've seen the most dramatic of finishes, Mark Bolton is going to sidestep it all and win here today. Back at Belle Isle, he put in a good performance at one stage, but had an incident, finished 36th. He's going to finish inside the top 10 overall today and finish on the top of the Pro-Am standings. And in Am, it's JT Sawyer, who's been leading all day long, who's going to win there, not by quite as many positions as he thought he might some of the other Ams, but it's still a remarkable drive of dominance from him.
Well, yeah, he did. JT Sawyer absolutely just... I'm still astounded by what went on in the Pro-Ams. I am literally completely a myth of how that all ended up coming together. I really can't tell which way round that was, but JT Sawyer, watch him over the line and come over. I'm sure the stewards are going to have a look and decide who was at fault there. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because
very tough. It
looked like one was coming over and then one was unfortunately coming the other way, and I think from our perspective, you know, when you're looking at it like this, you can see that there's a move already there. That's Quinton Price, and in front of obviously William Bailey. So the move had already been done, and he was alongside. Now, did Bailey come over and completely squeeze the door?
Well, it is difficult because
it did.
It does have a foot or so to the left, so it's very tricky to call that. I don't know if I'd pin the blame either way, actually.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to look back at that and decide which way that would have gone, because I think the problem is Bailey had looked like he'd made a move over, and then I don't.
Very difficult indeed.
Yeah, good luck stewards on that one. I tell you, it's hard because obviously your son's in there and you're like, yeah, but logically that's going to be a tough one to decide. It will be a steering input situation, I think, on that one. But there's the results.
Yeah, we'll have people without skin in the game deciding, so it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah, exactly. David Van Rooij wins the race by 4.7 seconds ahead of Joshua Herrin and Sean Riley, whose last lap pass got him ahead of Bradley Lovings. Alan Purser let them through, but was still pleased to finish top 5. I think Jeremy Cheney finished in 6th place ahead of Mark Bolton, who won in Pro-Am. Then it was Michael Dion, ahead of Rick Modric, who got ahead of Quentin Price in the end. Cole Modric finished just behind all of that madness. William Bailey actually hung onto a podium in the end on the road, ahead of Eric Garnzel, who will be disappointed to have missed out on a podium in Pro-Am. Stuart Gibbs was the final driver within a minute of the winner, as Simon Belts finished next. Then the AM winner, JT Sawyer. Michael Champlin was next ahead of Bill Packer, who again had lap 1 problems for the second race in a row. Buzzy Mongold finished next ahead of Barry Spencer. It was Kenneth Cloddin who had an incident pretty early on in the first half of the race. Brian Dukowski, who was involved on lap 1, finished next ahead of Jose Valentin, Brian Hoskins and Bradley Tidwell, of those who finished on the lead lap. George Parfitt finished 1 lap down because of retiring on that very final lap. Justin Cook finished 1 lap down as well as Mike Elliott, who had a spin at the final corner pretty early on. Anthony Hutchinson had a spin at Pouon and finished next ahead of Tyshawn Green, who had the best view in the house for the opening lap incident. Chase Algray finished next ahead of Scott Carlson and Heath Ollinger. Marcus Fazino was the first driver, 2 laps down, along with Perno Hanno, who visited the pit lane at least twice. James Hillerick finished next up. Then those that didn't finish at all: Mike Brady, Robert Hadley, Philip de Cruz, Eddie Bourgeois, Ben Groves, Barry Acker, Dean Carroll, Caleb Pollock, and Mitchell Bowen. Well, I've forgotten how many drivers there were, about 45. Loads.
Yeah,
as we had here today.
There was a good few, wasn't there?
It certainly was.
So, yeah.
There we go. Could have done with those positions when I was reading it.
Yeah, sorry, there was an error for some reason it hadn't shown. So there we go. Look, I've sorted it now. There you go.
Right. Doesn't matter now. You can see it now.
Good.
Meanwhile, we've got David Emroy joining us, who's been patiently waiting for us to interview him. Welcome in, David. Good to have you with us. I hope that you're still there and we can chat to you. Congratulations on your second race win in 2 rounds. This was different to Belle, there's no doubting that. Plenty to talk about as well. And let's start with the incident, the main incident of your race, which of course was with Sean Riley. You were behind him for a lot of the first stint of that race. And eventually you did try and make the overtake. Didn't go great. Tell us about that sort of opening battle with Sean Riley from your perspective.
Yeah, well, good to talk to you guys. It was just totally on me. I think, I was just going to kind of follow him and pace for a while, and ultimately kind of felt like there was an opportunity there to kind of go in. And I got in, really just a little bit hot, couldn't get the car turned, and just clipped him. So that's totally on me. And then I tried to kind of push him in where I could kind of keep him going forward, and it ended up spinning him around backwards. And so it was just a mess, right? So, but that's on me. Sean, so sorry that happened. And then just kind of kept going. And then as we went a little bit further, I wanted to check up a little bit, let him get back in front. I thought we had good pace together. And then my thought at that point was if he and I could go together, we might be able to catch up to the front. So that was kind of the goal afterwards.
And in the pit stop phase, you gained, put it this way, your pit stop was about 20% shorter than everybody else's. And we were at a loss, really, to figure out what you would have done or not done to have saved so much time and then still being quicker than Bradley Lovings, who you needed to be quicker than to overtake and win the race in the end. What did you do during that pit stop that you think others maybe didn't?
Yeah, the biggest thing, I'm not taking any tires. And then on the fuel, what I'm really doing is just whatever the crew chief is telling me I need is all I'm doing. And in iRacing, it kind of lets you do 1 extra lap by default of fuel. And what I do is I take that all the way down to 0. So just give me exactly what I need. And the idea is to run out of fuel going across the finish line. So that's all that I'm doing different. And I was surprised that I was still that close to Brad coming out of the pits. I was kind of shocked. So that's all that I'm doing. No other special tricks.
Yeah. Found a faster fuel pump somewhere from anyone else. Does it not make it, and one last thing on this, does it not make more sense to, because you can take tyres and fuel at the same time, are you not tempted to, take 1 or 2, or would that completely unbalance the Ford?
Yeah, I think, I took 10 gallons of fuel in this pit stop, and I haven't worked out how many tires that might equal, or if that equals a set of tires. So that's the only thing, and I just haven't worked it out. You probably can. I just kind of left it. And I don't think I think the tires are still good up to that point anyway. So I don't know that it would do anything different.
It's clearly working for you, clearly. Last thing, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Hey, really, hats off and kudos to you guys. Love listening to the broadcast afterwards. You guys are doing fantastic work. And, Bradley, he's doing such a great job managing the league and keeping everybody together. I don't know that I would have been able to get around him if it wasn't for that incident at the end where he took on some damage. So, Bradley, kudos to you. Good pace, man. And Sean, once again, really sorry, dude. Sorry, man. Didn't mean to do that.
Well, congratulations, David, on the victory, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Dave Van Roy there, the winner tonight, or this afternoon, this morning, depending on where you are in the world. Sean Riley has also joined us from third in the pro standings. Welcome in, Sean. Good to have you with us. And you would have heard there the back end of David chatting there about your incident between the two of you. Is that how you viewed it? Did you feel that he was the one who got into you during that incident?
Well, I didn't join the lobby until I think towards the end of y'all's interview with him, but I don't really fault him for what happened. I've made that mistake before a million times. We both go into that corner side by side, and I was being on the inside. I was well off the racing line, which meant that my speed at the apex was noticeably slower than it should have been. And these cars are so the performance is so close. You have to take advantage of any momentum that you have, and I think my lack of pace at the apex, just because I was offline, I think caught him off guard, and I think that's all that happened.
That's good to see that neither of you blaming the other really for the incident. So there you go. I mean, you had to recover as well as him, and you made passes late on to get onto that podium. What was the drive through the field like, and what was the overtaking like here? Because we did see a fair amount of incidents with one driver trying to overtake another, and we saw some incidents incidences of people actually seeming to struggle to overtake one another as well. Was it a struggle? How was the overtaking and the racing here?
Well, I didn't find myself having to overtake really that many cars competitively. There were a few guys that I caught back up to that they really just stepped out of the way. Which is understandable because I think there were a lot of incidents happening. I heard y'all talking to David about the pit stops, and it's funny, I was in practice, I kind of worked out that it took about 13 gallons worth of fill time to equal a set of tires. And as my pit stop window was coming up, I was like, let's just try something different to see if I can have some extra pace at the end to catch back up to the leaders. And so my crew chief said I needed about 11 and a half. And I was like, what's, an extra gallon and a half worth of time sitting there. I can probably make that up. But I think the combination of my few extra seconds waiting for tires and then David taking a lap worth of fuel out of his crew chief's recommendation at Spa, that's a big deal because it's such a long lap that, you take a gallon out, or you take a lap out, and that's a full gallon that you're not, sitting there stationary waiting to take on. So I was pretty shocked when I came out of the pits and saw how much he had made up as everybody cycled through the pits. But really, there's only one place after Eau Rouge you can pass safely there. Spa kind of has a reputation for being an easy overtaking track, but two GT3 cars side by side going through the back straight seems to be a recipe for disaster more often than not. But I managed to get lucky and get that third place back at the end.
Yeah, I mean, also the fuel thing is it's a pretty big risk, isn't it? I mean, what if the race goes one lap further than?
Exactly. I've always been tempted to do that, but there's been times that you're coming up to the start finish line, and the amount of time left in the race, you're sure that this is going to be it, and you don't get the white flag. And so, I've always thought that extra gallon that the crew chief, recommends you put in is worth the extra 2 seconds you're sitting there. But David took a chance, and it definitely worked out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Is one last thing, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Well, you guys do a fantastic job. I always love coming off. I can't listen to it while I'm racing. I don't have enough brain cells for that, but
Oh,
That's
honestly,
pretty much the first thing I do after a race is sit down and watch all the action. And you guys, y'all do a really good job, and I appreciate it.
I really would not expect you to watch and drive at the same time, Sean. I've got to be honest, mate.
So true.
I can't multitask either. We discussed it earlier on in the broadcast. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And, yeah, I can't even, if someone in my family walks up to try to talk to me, I can't get 2 words out. So
No, I normally just flick a hand as if violently to say, go away.
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sean, and we'll see you hopefully next week too. There we are, Sean Riley from third here tonight. Oh, I keep saying tonight. It's not the night at all. It's the afternoon, or indeed the morning, depending on where you are in the world. That's pretty much it for us tonight, though. I've done it again. James, it's been another good round of the series. 55 minutes of racing here at Spa, certainly delivered in terms of action. As we suspected it would be, a very, very different day of racing compared to Belle Isle, which we were expecting to be, or we did see was in the wall. Lots of incidents more than anything, but there was actually quite a lot of racing here instead. Here at Spa, instead of all of the crashing or whatever, it was more racing, and there were incidents, of course, but it was great racing too. Looking forward to the remaining rounds of the season now, although they'll be very different to Spa indeed, starting with Mugello in 1 week's time.
Yeah, completely different makeup. I think there's going to be a lot involved here. There is obviously stewarding involved as well. So whether or not people obviously put in protests for what went on, it's always a tough one, right? Let's be real about it. Regardless whether or not it was my son in the Pro-Am battle, that last lap of the 3 Pro-Ams was absolutely epic. And Cole Modric in there as well was incredible. Them lot coming together, just unfortunate, I'm sure. I wouldn't want to be a steward dissecting that one. But that was another great battle. JT Sawyer dominating the AMs. Can anybody get hold of JT? Or will he end up being moved up a class? Because he's been quicker than some of the Pro-Ams. So fair play to JT. Awesome evening. Oh, now you got me at it. Awesome afternoon of racing.
Sorry. 23rd for him at Belle Isle, by the way, JT Sawyer, and just a little bit higher again here. But I think he's been challenged decently by some of his rivals. We'll have a look at the full scope of the championship, of course, when we begin our broadcast in 1 week's time. I think it'll be me and James again for that one, and I'm doing the first half of the season, and then I think Tom's coming for the rest, or at least most of the rest. So it's been a fun opening couple of rounds here of the OGRL Coffee Cup, and hope that you've enjoyed the broadcast. A big thanks to everyone who's been chatting along with us. It's been good to engage with a few people this time round here this afternoon as well. But until we see you in a week's time at Mugello, I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside James Parfitt, and we'll see you in a week's time. Goodbye for now.